everybody. Fourth session of the series video conference as a collaboration between the University of English and Media Services in Bangkok, the Royal Learning Foundation, teacher organization. Today is Critical Part 2, session. Before we start, I would like to introduce a guest from Chicago, the consul, the Royal Thai Consulate General. He comes here to bring best wishes as regards with of 50,000 US Chicago to the Rajat Foundation to have the city in the south of Thailand. We want to invite him to a little before he presents to Phan Keo.
Phan Keo Watro Thai. I'm glad to be here to present the American and people in Chicago to help for the victim of the disaster in Thailand for the amount is $1,000 US.
For listening to your start presentation, I would like to give a brief outline of to our Thai here and throughout the country. ท่านอาจารย์ทุกรายการวันนี้เป็นสรุปให้ในช่วงต้นเราจะมีอะไรบ้างในเซสชั่นของเพื่อที่ท่านอาจารย์จะได้ฟังการที่อาจารย์คือเทียได้นะคะโดยไม่ต้องขั้นสรุปนะคะสำหรับ Teaching Skills ตอนที่2นะที่ท่านอาจารย์ได้รายการในเดือนที่แล้ววันนี้อาจารย์คือเทียก็จะนำเอาเรื่องเป็นที่รู้จักโรเมโอจูเลียตเนี่ยมาค่ะสำหรับเพื่อที่จะนำไปสู่มุ่งพัฒนาการคิดวิเคราะห์นะคะโดยเริ่มต้นการเขาบอกเป็น Socratic Questioning อันแรกค่ะtopic แรกก็ทบทวน rules ของซึ่งคราวที่แล้วเราก็ได้นะคะว่าระดับรับรู้การเรียนรู้ของทำยังไงเราถึงขั้นanalysis เช่นคือขั้นวิเคราะห์สังเคราะห์รู้จักประเมินการตั้งคำถามเฉพาะyes no หรือว่าการค่ะควรจะใช้ด้วยนะคะแล้วนำข้อเสนอแผนนะคะอาจารย์ก็จะใช้คือstrategies นะคะก็จะนำกลวิธีนะคะการที่จะพัฒนาวิเคราะห์เนี่ย35ด้านนะคะมาพูดถึงเป็น affective strategies cognitive strategies นะคะซึ่งจะแตกแล้วก็ micro strategies ซึ่งระหว่างนั้นเนี่ยอาจารย์นะคะเพื่อที่จะให้เราลองฝึกนะคะการทักษะด้วยในแต่ละช่วง จะเป็นผู้หญิงที่จะโดยเราจูเรียกเนี่ยเข้ามาแล้วให้อาจารย์ได้ลองนะคะหรือว่าเป็น discussion นะคะคำถามที่วิเคราะห์ที่จะใช้เลือกใช้กลวิธีที่จะกลวิธีนั้นนะคะแล้วก็ช่วงท้ายก็จะเป็นคำถามคำตอบเชิญรับชมและรับฟังได้ค่ะ
For the kind remarks and the introduction. I'll just a small note. First off, we are having a little bit of trouble with the sound. Some of the sound is missing. Are you able to hear us okay?
Yes, clear.
Yeah, clear.
Okay. Okay, thank you. In case we have to ask you to repeat something, it's because there's a little bit of gap. So we're back with you again for this is a part 2 series. We appreciate your tuning in. We're glad our two audiences here with us today. This is Cindy Kiefer, on faculty at the University of Oregon, here to talk with us in a wide sense, a more practical kind of today about critical thinking in the EFL classroom. We do want to thank all of you, those of you in Hua Hin and in Bangkok, and in parts of Thailand as well, for sending us your suggestions, your email, your feedback. We really appreciate that, and we appreciate the spirit of honesty and communication, and it's been fun to hear from people. We do invite you to get in touch with us if you have questions or would like to make suggestions. And I hear we have some work samples, some people who've done some homework they would like to share with us today. Is that right? I'm sorry, we're not hearing anything from your side.
They're just turning their mic on. I think it's ready now.
Hello, Leslie and
Thank
Cynthia.
you.
Yes, last time that we were at a conference last time is about the critical thinking, and we're back to our school, and we will let Pernprit say something first.
Okay, hi. I am Pernprit from Nakhon Sawan School. Last time I joined the conference, so first of all, we would like to thank you this program very much. That last time we back to school and get some knowledge or some idea from the conference back to school. For me, I teach M4 like grade 10, and Dalat she teach M1 like grade 7. We work together, we walk together, and we think we share together. So last time when we back to school, like a hard work to let our kids, our students, think about thinking skill and activities. We learned one sentence from last time about teaching English through activities. So we try hard to encourage our students to think about activity that they will let their skill for that to use in their daily life and the community service. Ajahn Dalat, she will tell you more about our work.
We organize, we call like youth guide club. It's about volunteer guide to help the tourists during the Chinese New Year in our city. Last time we ran about the activity about multicultural. We compare culture, Thai, Chinese, and Western, and it was fantastic that my students, they helped the tourists during the Chinese New Year in our city. That it was last week, and the kids, we warmed them up. We organized the group to do like group activity that we let them feel like have self-confidence to talk to the tourists during the Chinese New Year. Okay, you can see the picture. Okay, and we will let the foundation keep this our homework, and you will see about that later. But we would like to tell you that teachers is not only teaching. Teachers should be the good supporter. Thank you.
Wow, very impressive. Thank you for sharing that with us. I liked a lot of things that I heard in that description. First of all, that you're working in teams and supporting each other and trying new things and working together and sharing in kind of meaningful ways. So what a great idea to go out into the community and volunteer for Chinese New Year helping tourists. Very nicely done.
Can I make a comment, Leslie? One thing I appreciated was the direct application of the higher level thinking skills that you mentioned last time, comparing, analyzing, synthesizing.
Yes.
Then they had their students then compare Chinese New Year from a Thai, Chinese, and Western perspective. So they took their homework very seriously.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent job. Very nicely done. Okay. Are we ready to move on to this week's content then?
Yes.
Any other questions or anything anyone wants to share before we dive into things here?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I guess we're ready to go. So we've got just a quick introductory slide here on our PowerPoint presentation, recapping for you the main points that we're going to talk about today. Had a very nice conversation with Richard recently, and he suggested incorporating some multimedia or visual literacy kinds of elements. So we're going to have fun, a little bit of fun with that here tonight. We'll be briefly reviewing the objectives of a lesson plan, and then we'll be looking a little bit at some of these affective and cognitive strategies in the classroom, and then closing with some recommendations. We're going to try to make it as concrete as possible. What we'd like you to do, last time we thought about, we tried to come up with something from your textbook, and discovered during the process that not all of you were using the same textbook or were familiar with it. So this week, for an example on our side, we're going to use a movie and a story. I think you all know the story and the film of Romeo and Juliet. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that familiar?
Yes, very familiar.
I think so. Yeah. We're going to use Romeo and Juliet on our side. We just finished with Valentine's Day, too, and that's a love story, so it fits nicely with the holiday for this month. But when you're working in your groups on the activities today, you're welcome to choose another story and or movie that's more relevant or more interesting to you. Kun Sorada sent us a very nice list of all kinds of movies that people were interested in and knowledgeable about. So we can be very flexible with that today. All right, so we're opening with a picture. Can we get a good look at the picture here? Can everybody see it okay?
Yes.
Can I see the classrooms? We'd like to ask how many people have seen this picture before. Has anyone seen it before?
ขอจับภาพที่
How about can the cameras show us the students, the participants, so we can see them?
ขอจับภาพผู้เข้าร่วมค่ะ
Show of hands. How many people have seen this picture before? Out there in our viewing audience, have you seen the picture before? Take a hard look at it and see if you can see two versions of the picture. Talk with your neighbor about it. How many people can see an old woman? Raise your hand if you can see an old woman. A few people. How many people can see a young woman, a beautiful young woman? Raise your hand if you can see the young woman. Okay, there's some other hands. All right, so if you're looking at the young woman, you know that her head is turned back over her shoulder and she's looking back behind her. If you're seeing the old woman, she's looking to the left and sort of looking down. How many people can see both women now? Okay. Raise your hand if you can see both of them. You want to comment on that a little bit, Cindy?
When you read the literature about cognitive development, these kinds of puzzles or puzzling pictures are often used to determine if a person is dominantly right-brained or left-brained, and being the right brain being the creative side and the left brain being the more logical side. And these kinds of pictures can be used to strengthen the side of your brain that is not dominant, and also can be used to identify what your dominant brain side is, so that you can recognize where your strengths are for studying and learning. And if you work on or you use these kinds of activities to strengthen your weak side of the brain, then you can become more balanced. And the literature says the more balanced you are, the better learner you are, and the more that you will retain in learning. And we were talking today about the field of architecture.
Yeah.
And an architecture student may start out to be very right brain dominant, very creative, a lot of good ideas.
Sort of artistic.
But they have to also develop the left brain, because they have to draw very exact drawings and be very specific. So knowing if you're right-brained or left-brained can help you reach your fullest potential cognitively.
And help your students as well. And you can have fun with it too. Let's take a look at one more and see how you do with this one. All right, this one is animal instead of human. Can you see a rabbit or a duck or both?
Both.
How many people can see the duck? Raise your hand if you can see the duck. Okay, the duck is facing left, right? We're looking at its mouth. Its mouth is kind of open. Its head is facing toward the left. Okay. How many people can see the rabbit? Raise your hand. Okay, good. How many of you can see both this time? Raise your hand if you see both, the rabbit and the duck. All right, good. Excellent, excellent. So in this case, the duck's mouth is the rabbit's ears.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay, we've already been throwing around some terms here tonight. The words affective and cognitive we're going to use tonight. Also the words macro and micro. Do you want to just give real quick summaries or definitions?
Just very quick summaries, very superficial type summaries, but affective has to deal with a student's feelings and self-confidence. And in language teaching, most of us are aware of students' affective barriers to learning a second language or a foreign language. So the teacher spends a lot of time trying to get the student to feel comfortable in the classroom to take risks and experiment with the language. So affective barriers or affective domains has to deal with the student's feelings, self-confidence, and self-perceptions of, in our case, how they are as learners. The cognitive domain has more to do with mental processes, and today we're going to talk about the macro abilities, the general abilities that we can focus on in the classroom in our instruction to help students develop thinking skills from a variety of perspectives and on multiple levels. And the micro is more specific cognitives. It's more skill-based activities that the student becomes proficient at.
Okay. And you notice we tucked these little pictures in and out of the presentation here today. If you look at the image on the bottom right-hand corner of the slide, you should be able to see, or you may be able to see, two different images. What do you see, Cindy?
Well, at first I saw a man playing a saxophone.
So sort of a jazz player, a
Yes.
musician. Yeah?
But now I see a woman's face
Okay.
looking to the left.
Okay. And by the way, these are all images we got freely from the web, from optical illusion kinds of sites. And so if there's interest in using these in your classroom for icebreakers or warm-ups or triggering different kinds of thought processes, we can make those URLs available also.
Yeah, on our way over here today, we were talking about how much fun this would be to do with our students once a week or every other week as kind of a warm-up, and to remind them that what cognitive skills means and mental processes, and everybody sees things a little differently.
Okay. All right. Are we pausing today for translations at all? I'm just checking in. I know that Naraporn did some translating at the beginning.
Yeah.
I
You can
think
go on. Yeah.
I think we agreed a little intro summary, tell them what's
Okay.
coming, and then toward the end, it might be nice just to wave at Hua Hin. Hi, Sorada, are you there? And your participants,
Hi,
do you hear
Richard.
us?
Good morning. Yes, we're all here.
Okay.
Thank you for a good warm-up session.
All right,
And
great.
Enjoy
Well,
the tackling pictures.
okay, so we'll
Okay, good.
go ahead.
Okay. Then just a real quick recap of what we talked about a little bit last time. We talked a great deal about Bloom's taxonomy last time, and Cindy sort of made a division between knowledge, comprehension, and application kinds of thinking. Some people refer to those as lower order thinking skills.
Right, but still they're necessary thinking skills in order
Right.
to get to the upper three: analysis, synthesis, and evaluation.
Okay.
Yeah, and those last three were considered higher order. Although there's discussion in the literature too, if this is the right order, if synthesis comes before evaluation, evaluation before synthesis, but we just need to pay attention that those are the higher level thinking skills.
And those are the ones we're really striving for. So one of the things we talked about last week was when you do a textbook analysis or a resource kind of analysis, what you typically find are lots of activities grounded in those lower order thinking skills, whereas we really need to get our students up more into these higher order thinking skills as well. Okay.
And so last time participants did spend some time developing lower level questions and questions that hit the upper three levels also.
And they did a good job with it,
Yeah,
too.
they did a great job.
They really did a good job.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Objectives of a lesson plan. Again, a real brief synopsis.
Yeah, well, last time we used Bloom's taxonomy to analyze a textbook and to make our own questions to go with the reading passage. But also, beyond the textbook, teachers have their lesson plans, and we have objectives of our lesson plans. And so this is just a simple overview to illustrate that we can identify the level of our objectives in our lesson plans. So, for example, asking students to retell a story. If we were reading Romeo and Juliet and we had them summarize the story for us, that would be at the comprehension level. If we asked them to compare and contrast two of the main characters, I don't know, Romeo and Juliet's parents or the opposite parents of each Romeo and Juliet, that would be at the analysis level. And if we ask the students to discuss and evaluate the characters' motivations in the play Romeo and Juliet, that would be at the evaluation level. So the point is we can look at our objectives, identify what level of thinking we are asking our students to do, and match our activities and classroom strategies to foster those or to reach those objectives.
So it's sort of like climbing up a ladder. I mean, you start by laying the groundwork with the comprehension and the sort of lower order thinking skills, and then work up from there. Okay, good. All right. Speaking of ladders. Speaking of ladders, we have another image for you. This one has a couple of possibilities. Are they going up the ladders to a higher level, or are they sort of going out? And it's a kind of a nice metaphor for what we're talking about here today, because I think what we're wanting is for our students to do both. Groundwork down there on the grass, sort of taking risks and going out to the edge of things, and also working their way up this ladder of critical thinking.
And I also think this is a good image because it illustrates that you can look at the same picture, or it could be the same passage of a reading, and you can see from a different perspectives, you will see different things. And that's what a critical thinker does, is take a topic or an issue and look at it from as many perspectives and analyze it as much as possible.
So if I were to put myself in the position of any one of these people in this structure, I might be looking up, I might be looking down, I might be looking over the edge, I might be...
Yeah, and then one of the points about teaching students or helping students become critical thinkers is that they put themselves in another person's position and try to see the subject or the matter from their eyes. So this is kind of, to me, is really a good representative practice of what a critical thinker would do.
Okay. How many of you are the person standing up on the balcony? Raise your hand if you're the one standing way up on the balcony and leaning over. Which one are you? Are you the risk taker? Do we have some risk takers there? How many of you are the people on the ground holding the ladder and keeping everything steady in your classroom? Can you imagine yourselves in those different positions? I think if we can do that as teachers, we can help our students do that in their thinking as well.
Yes.
Okay. Moving along. All right. Do all of you have with you the handout, the 35 Dimensions of Critical Thought?
Yes.
Can you raise your hand if you have that handout, please, so we can see? Raise your hand if you have the handout, 35 Dimensions of Critical Thought. It's 2 pages. It has a lot of S's, S1, S2, Strategy 3, Strategy 4. Naraporn and
Yes.
Sorada, Kun Sorada, can you help us?
Yes, we do have an
With
Yes,
this,
we have
please?
it, Leslie.
Okay, great. Hua Hin has them. Okay, how about Bangkok? Does Bangkok have them?
ยกมือค่ะถ้ามี Yes.
Excellent, excellent. We're going to be referring to those for the next little bit of time here, and
Right.
you'll need them for the activities as well.
Right.
Okay.
Oh.
Sorry, do you want me to go back?
Yeah, could you just go back one?
Yeah, I'll go back.
Sorry.
No, my fault. We're moving back one. I got in too big of a hurry. There we go.
I just wanted to point out that this handout on 35 Dimensions of Critical Thought comes from the website, the Critical Thinking Community. So after today, if you're interested, I would recommend that you go to their website, and they have examples of lesson plans or lesson plans that have been restructured using these 35 dimensions of critical thought. And it's worth the time to go through. You'll get lots of good ideas about what you can do with your already established lesson plans.
Okay, good. And for those of you who are outside of our Bangkok and Hua Hin audiences, these readings are all available on the supporting website. Again, if you're having trouble locating that website or need help with the handouts, get in touch with us. We'll put our email addresses at the end of the presentation. All right, so we're focusing first on S1 through S9.
Yeah, we're not going to go into too much detail about S1 through S9. First of all, S means strategy.
Yeah.
And what the Center for the Critical Thinking Community has done is has identified 35 instructional strategies that teachers can use to incorporate thinking, a variety of thinking activities into the classroom. So strategies S1 through S9 are in the affective domain, which we just talked a bit about briefly a few minutes ago. Techniques or strategies for getting students to think independently, to think about their own thinking, to think from other people's perspectives, to give them confidence in their reasons, in their reasoning skills, and to give them perseverance to challenge and keep thinking and rethinking about topics and controversial topics that they may not feel that comfortable with analyzing and confronting. So strategies 1 through 9 are the affective domain.
Okay.
And so today, our first focus is going to be on the strategies that deal with the macro abilities. And on your handout, those are the strategies S10 through S26. And I'm just going to give you a few examples, and then you're going to be given the opportunity to try to develop activities or questions that will work on these strategies. So the first example is strategy S15, which is developing criteria for evaluation, clarifying values and standards. So if I were using Romeo and Juliet as my context, I could ask the questions of my students such as, what would you have done? Or how did character X feel and why, and how do you know? Substantiate your opinions always. How do the other characters feel, why, and how do you know? So this is just a very general example of thinking about your own values and standards and or other people's standards and values, and how do you know what you think is correct.
And one of the things I like about Shakespeare and other forms of literature or any other really context is you can give yourself permission to have a lot of creativity with this. So Shakespeare in particular made a point of not giving a lot of stage directions or costuming or those kinds of things, or even extra characters. So I've seen teachers who have a lot of fun with this. And what if you were the fly on the wall?
Right.
You know, when the parents left the room, what did they say after they went outside of the act? What if you were Juliet's pet cat and she was talking to the cat at night after she went back inside off the balcony? So you can give yourself and your students a lot of leeway with this, I think, and
or
be creative.
having one character write a letter to another character.
Oh, letter writing. Yeah, letter writing's good.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
The second example is S19, generating and assessing solutions. So when a character in Romeo and Juliet makes or does something, you can ask students to look at the situation from the character's point of view. So why did he or she think that this was important, or do you think it was important? What were the pros and cons of the person's actions or decisions? And how else could the problem have been solved? Especially the end of Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, to poison or not to poison. Yes.
What were their other alternatives? Yes.
And what were their alternatives at that time? What might their alternatives today be? What would their alternatives in Thailand versus the United States or another country be?
Or another culture, yes.
Another culture. That was one thing that the homework folks today did a nice job of illustrating for us, with that kind of comparison, bringing that in as well. Okay, one last one.
And the last one is Socratic Questioning, which is in the literature quite a bit. Socratic Questioning, we have a couple at S24. Socratic Questioning, you have a handout.
Yeah, they have that table.
Yes.
From the website also. So you should have a second handout for today. It's the table with from the Socratic Questioning website, and it has little boxes and columns that show different kinds of question asking, inquiry-based learning strategies.
Right, and Socratic Questioning is, the purpose of this is to lead the teacher to lead a discussion and to create a dialogue with the students, to help move the students in their thinking from the unclear to the clear, from the unreasoned to the reasoned, or to have them move and examine points that they hadn't considered before. So the purpose then of this kind of questioning is to promote thinking and reflection. It's questions that go beyond just factual questions, and there's not, on your paper you can see there are questions that for clarification, questions about to probe assumptions, questions about to probe the origin or the source of information. They're not in a particular order. There's not a hierarchy of questions. And in this case, the teacher really has to flow with the discussion and be prepared to ask questions very quickly and to move the discussion in a very constructive manner.
So fairly spontaneous.
It is spontaneous. You can't, in your lesson plan you can say, I'm going to have a discussion and I'm going to use Socratic technique, but it's very difficult to predict where the discussion is going to go.
I guess you have to have a kind of a sense of a general direction that you'd like it to go.
Yes.
So this is that notion that we've talked about in earlier sessions about the teacher as a facilitator or a guide and steering, but also allowing the students some leeway and what they would like to know, or I mean, they surprise us sometimes with their lines of thinking, too.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got viewpoints and how would other people respond? Can you see things another way? Okay. think we're about ready for an activity.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to have you work in groups, in the same way that you've done before. And what we'd like you to do is using either the story of Romeo and Juliet or another story or another movie, develop here during this session some activities or discussion questions that target these cognitive macro abilities. So look at your handout, the 35 Dimensions of Critical Thought, and see if you can come up with some instructional strategies, some things that you would do in the classroom with this movie that would activate those kinds of thinking in your students. Questions about the task. We're going to give you a good 5 or 10 minutes. And for people who are not in Hua Hin or Bangkok, people who are in our viewing audience outside of the studio, we welcome you to choose a similar movie or a similar context and talk with the person next to you. I know some of you are in training centers or in small groups, or if you're working on your own, maybe jot them down on a piece of paper and we'll come back and debrief the activity and you can compare your results with those of our studio audiences.
And we would like you to stay with the cognitive macro abilities, those strategies that are in that category.
And those were S, what were those again? Those were, I can flip back to that slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
S10 to S26.
Okay.
S10 to S26.
Okay. It's like playing bingo or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Leslie, perhaps it might be a good idea if I brief the activity instruction in Thai.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
ค่ะท่านอาจารย์คะอาจารย์เลสลี่กับอาจารย์ซินเทียนะคะให้อาจารย์ทำกิจกรรมอาจจะใช้เวลาประมาณ5นาทีนะคะใช้เรื่องโรมิโอจูเลียตก็ได้นะคะหรือว่าเรื่องอื่นก็ได้ที่อาจารย์เคยคุ้นเคยนะคะเพื่อที่จะตั้งคำถามหรือว่าตั้งคิดกิจกรรมนะคะที่มีเป้าหมายอยู่ที่ macro abilities นะคะตามที่อาจารย์ซินเทียได้อธิบายเมื่อกี้ตั้งแต่S1 ถึง S26 นะคะแล้วก็ที่อาจารย์ก็ให้ตัวอย่างเมื่อกี้มาก็มี S15 S19 S24 S10 ถึง S26 ค่ะขอโทษค่ะนะคะซึ่งก็มีตัวอย่างคำถามมาให้นะคะอาจารย์ลองคิดคำถามสักคนละ 2-3 คำถามได้ไหมคะในช่วงเวลา5นาทีนะคะแล้วเดี๋ยวถ้าท่านไหนเสร็จแล้วทั้งที่หัวหินแล้วก็ที่กรุงเทพอาจารย์กรุณายกมือนะคะแล้วก็อาจารย์มานิสากับอาจารย์สุชาดาจะดูแล้วก็อาจารย์สรดาจะช่วยดูด้วยนะคะเผื่อยังไงก็จะได้ตอบท่านอาจารย์ซินเทียกับอาจารย์เลสลี่ Leslie I've told them to post or think 2 activities in 5 minutes and if they finish they raise their hands and perhaps you may ask them to feedback on that.
Okay, good. Shall we give them a few minutes to talk to each other?
Sure. ค่ะอาจารย์ปรึกษากันได้นะคะ
Okay.
5 minutes
อาจารย์เลือกได้เลย
Leslie
นะคะตั้งแต่10 ถึง 26 นะคะ แล้วก็ขอคนละ 2 คำถามค่ะ
Okay, facilitator, whenever they're ready, what we'd like to do is ask them we'd like to hear from a group or two, and we'd like them to tell us what their context was, what their story or their movie is, and what instructional strategies they're using, and what their activity is.
Okay.
Leslie, Huayin is ready. So can we start with
Excellent.
the first question here? Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Hello to Cynthia as well. Go.
Okay.
Hi, Leslie. From Hua Hin, from Wangangem School. Okay, the question is from the Romeo and Juliet. Okay.
Romeo and Juliet. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. The question is, would you do the same as Romeo and Juliet, killing yourself for the sake of love? Okay, this is my question.
So which strategy did you choose?
S15.
S15.
Yeah.
Developing criteria for evaluation, clarifying values and standards.
Yeah.
And your question again was?
If you were Romeo and Juliet, would you do the same thing that they did? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's a good
good.
question.
That's a good one. That's a good one. How about you? Would you do the same thing they did?
No.
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 Why
Yeah.
not?
If I were Juliet, I wouldn't do that.
Okay, what would you do instead?
No. That is so many. How to solve the problem. Yeah.
So you would solve it a
many ways to
different
solve
way.
the problem. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Good. Okay, good job, Hua Hin. Do we have one more from Hua Hin, or shall we go to
Yeah.
Bangkok?
Can we have one more from Hua Hin? Yeah, อาจารย์
Excellent. Yay, Hua Hin.
Two from Hua Hin.
Hi, Leslie and Cynthia. I'd like to
Hi.
ask you about the strategy number 13, okay?
Okay.
Clarifying issues.
If you were Romeo and Juliet, how would you change the end of the story? Because you know that it's the tragedy at the end of the story, right? If you were
Right.
Romeo and Juliet, how would you change the end of the story? Thank you.
Yes. S13, clarifying issues, conclusions, or beliefs.
Excellent. You guys are right on target with this. Very, very good. Yeah. Now, you know, I could imagine that going a couple directions. Cindy and I both have teenagers at home, and we both have daughters and sons. And I could imagine our daughters making a happier ending,
Right.
perhaps. Maybe they danced, or they became artists, or they persuaded their parents. I could imagine my son, at least, on the other end, even going more tragic, or more active, even perhaps more violent. So I think when you open these doors, you have to be prepared for your students to come up with things that you haven't anticipated as well.
Well, even in a discussion a couple of days ago with a Korean teacher, we were talking about the movie Romeo and Juliet. And I said how disappointed I was that the movie didn't end happily.
Yeah.
And she said, well, she thought it was important that it ended the way the play did because that's real life. So we started talking about the differences between books and movies, and I could see how that could develop into a good project. Yeah.
Okay. You guys are right on track with all this. Okay, good job. How about Bangkok? What did Bangkok
Yes,
do
we've got
for
one
us
here
here?
for Bangkok.
I will talk about the other story. It is about Cinderella. I will use S26. S26. Thinking about the scene when Cinderella was with the stepmother. The question is, if you were the stepmother, will you treat Cinderella like that? Or what else can you do? Can you treat her? Will you treat her better or just the same as the stepmother did with her?
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, S26 is reasoning dialectically, evaluating perspectives, interpretations, or theories. That's a very good question to get the students to think in this direction.
They can draw on their own experiences. It touches on family values. Sort of put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Yes.
Yeah. Very nice. Very good. Right. Do we have one more from Bangkok?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Cinderella Susat. I'm from Banchamkor School, Rayong. For my question, if you were Juliet, did you do like her? Why? Okay.
Okay. And which strategy did you use?
S24.
S24. Practicing Socratic discussion. Okay.
Okay, good. Good. That's a good in. That's a good prompt for an open-ended discussion.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Well, a lot of you seem to know about fairy tales. We heard Cinderella. I think maybe you know Snow White. And Goldilocks. How many of you, raise your hand if you know the story of Jack and the Beanstalk? Do you know Jack? Jack and the Giant?
ยกมือค่ะ
Raise your hand if you know Jack and the Giant.
ยกมือค่ะ
Oh, yeah, they know Jack and the Giant. Okay, we have a line of questioning for you. And what we're going to ask you to do is nod your head vigorously if you agree yes.
Okay.
And nod your head this way. Wag it this way if you say no. Okay? Okay, this is where you say yes. And you nod your head like this so we can see. Oh, very good, very good. Okay, thank you. The visual cues help a lot. Okay, so
my question is, what did Jack do when he got to the giant's castle?
what did Jack do when he got to the giant's castle? Well, this was after he sold the cow.
Sold the cow.
And he planted the beans and he made his mom really mad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gave away their only cow.
Gave away their only cow. And the beanstalk grew up in the night and he climbed it and so now he's at the castle. Okay. Well, he went into the castle.
Right.
And one of the first things he found was the goose that lays the golden eggs. And the giant discovered him. The giant found him and chased him. He ran with the golden goose, and the giant chased him, and then he went down the beanstalk, and when the giant got on the beanstalk, he chopped the beanstalk down, and the giant died.
Exactly.
Okay, do you guys agree with me? Is that, nod your head? Yes? Is that about right? More or less? I don't see any heads. Yes or no?
There's a yes.
Okay, I see some yeses. Okay, all right.
And in the end, Jack and his mother live a wealthy life and happily ever after.
Oh, happily ever after. This was a happy story, yes. Very happy.
So let me ask you, Leslie, did Jack trespass? Did he go on the property without permission?
Ooh, help me out here. Did Jack go into the castle uninvited? Yes. Yes, he did. He went into the castle. He was not welcome there.
Right. And did he steal the goose that laid the golden eggs?
Yeah, he didn't ask permission. He stole the goose. Help me out here. Did he steal the goose, you guys?
ยักหน้าไหมคะ
Nod your head. Shake your head.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good.
And did Jack refuse to give the goose back to the giant?
Yes, he refused to give the goose back. Okay, I see head nodding. Thank you. All right.
And then, did Jack go down the beanstalk and cause the giant to be killed?
Yeah, he went down the beanstalk, and when he chopped it down, the giant died. Yep.
So tell me, Leslie, if Jack trespassed, if he stole the golden goose, if he murdered the giant, why is the giant the bad guy in the story?
Ooh, can you help me out here? Why is Jack the good boy and the giant's the bad one?
Yeah.
Does anyone have an answer? Okay, maybe there is no single answer. Maybe that's the whole point here.
The point is you can take a very simple story and the students understand the story so they're at the comprehension level. They can answer your questions about the story with yes and no, and they can summarize the story. But you take them to a point in the story and you ask them this kind of question, well, if Jack did all of these bad things, why is he the good person in the story and the giant is the bad person in the story? So you get the students to a point where they have to do some reflective thinking about, yeah, why does this story have a happy ending?
Okay. Not important. Do you need to recap there, or do we want to go on? What do you think?
Is it clear, you think, for your...
ชัดเจนนะคะ I think they're fine. You can go
They're
on.
fine. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're going to move from macro skills now to micro skills. And on your 35 dimensions of critical thought, these are strategies 27 through 35. What are these all about?
Okay, the micro skills are a little more specific. These are the kinds of things that you would probably have tests on. These are things that are easier to test. And they're not as global as the macro abilities, but you need to exercise the macro abilities in order to perform these kinds of skills.
So we're going to see a few examples
Yes.
here. Okay.
So, for example, S27 is comparing and contrasting ideals with actual practice. So a question related to Romeo and Juliet could be, explain the rules of courtship during this time period, Shakespeare's period, and compare and contrast the action of Paris and Romeo in regard to courting and marriage. What was each person's perspective or ideal about courting and marriage?
We don't even call it courting anymore.
No.
These days we call
Dating.
it dating. These days it would be dating.
Right.
Even the vocabulary is a little bit different. Okay.
Yes, you could even compare with today's ideals and what's acceptable and not.
Okay. All right. Let's look at another example.
Another example would be S29, noting significant similarities and differences. And an easy one to do if you have a novel with a movie, especially, is for the students to compare the novel and the movie. And in this case, we were comparing Shakespeare's Act 5 with the film version, DiCaprio's film version of that scene.
What happens in Act 5? I don't remember.
Well, Leslie.
Act 5. Act 5. So which? But what?
End of the movie, so it must be.
So how it ends?
Of course, the death scene. Yes.
Yeah, which is what they're talking about here. Right. And in the case of Cinderella, Cinderella is a widely known folk tale. You can get it in print for free on the web. It's in the public domain these days. You can get full versions, the old versions. You can get abridged or simplified versions. You can listen to it being read by native speakers, or you can look at the Disney movie. So there are lots of versions of very commonly known stories that have significant differences.
Right. They could compare and contrast, and they could state their preferences, which ones they prefer and why. You could spend a whole unit comparing and contrasting the same story.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're ready for our next activity. Using, again, either the story of Romeo and Juliet or Cinderella or whatever story it was, you can use the same one as the last activity or choose another one. This time, develop activities or discussion questions that target these more micro skills. So these are this last section on your handout.
So that would be strategies 27 to 35.
27 to 35. So please go back in your groups, think some more about your stories or your movies that you are working with, and see if you can come up with another set of things to try out in the classroom.
Okay.
Kunaraporn, do you want to recap that, or do you think think they're ready?
ใช้เวลาอีกประมาณ5นาทีนะคะลองคิดคำถามอีกสัก2คำถามที่เน้นทางด้าน micro skills นะคะค่ะ Yeah 5 minutes right Leslie
Using, again, either the story of Romeo and Juliet or Cinderella or whatever story it was, you can use the same one as the last activity or choose another one. This time, develop activities or discussion questions that target these more micro skills. So these are this last section on your handout.
So that would be strategies 27 to 35.
27 to 35. So please go back in your groups, think some more about your stories or your movies that you are working with, and see if you can come up with another set of things to try out in the classroom.
Okay.
Kunaraporn, do you want to recap that, or do you think think they're ready?
ใช้เวลาอีกประมาณ5นาทีนะคะลองคิดคำถามอีกสัก2คำถามที่เน้นทางด้าน micro skills นะคะค่ะ Yeah 5 minutes right Leslie
Okay, Kun Sarada and Kun Naraporn, if you could choose one or two people from the group there to give us some more good ideas.
Yeah, from Bangkok first, okay?
Okay.
Good morning.
Viewers at home.
We will think about the Snow White And we have the we will have the question. We will tell our students to think about if you were Snow White, what will you do with your stepmom? Will you kill her, or will you tell the police, or something like that? And let the students to think about to give the ideas. And
Okay, so Snow White.
yeah.
What question? What strategy did you choose?
We are thinking about S27.
Comparing and contrasting ideals with actual practice. Yeah.
Okay, good. Very good.
Yeah,
right.
thank you.
All right. Well, if you were Snow White, what would you do? She's done.
Okay.
For me, if I'm Snow White, maybe I think I will fight with her. I will fight with my stepmom, or maybe I tell the police. I will not. For me, I will not keep the silent. I will fight.
Okay, you have a strong backbone then. Thank you. Do we have one more from Bangkok?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, hi. We work on the Beauty and the Beast. Okay.
Oh boy. Beauty and the Beast. Okay.
I'm sorry. For our question is it reasonable for the Beast to become the prince in the end? Do you agree with that?
Okay.
S30.
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 Examining or evaluating assumptions. Okay.
That's right. If we just sort of watch the movie and enjoy it, we just assume that that's just how it's supposed to be. But yeah, but what if? What if? Okay, very good. Thank you, Bangkok. Excellent as always. And for those of you who are at home and following along with us, we hope you're talking to your neighbors or comparing your own answers. And I'm sure they're coming up with good things too. Okay, how about Hua Hin?
Hua Hin is still in the Valentine's mood, so they still cling to Romeo and Juliet. อาจารย์อนงค์เชิญค่ะ
ขอภาพหัวหินด้วยค่ะ
I am อาจารย์อนงค์ from เมือง Primary School. Do you think arranged marriage better in the present society?
I'm sorry, we couldn't hear that at all. Could you speak up and try it again?
Do you think arranged marriage better in the present society?
Do you think arranged marriage is better in present
day society?
Oh, good question.
Oh, good question. Yes. So arranged marriage. Boy, that's a tough one. Yeah.
And what strategy did you choose?
S30.
30?
33.
S30?
Oh, sorry. S30, 27.
27. Comparing and contrasting ideals with actual practice. Yes.
Okay, so that's an interesting one because it's across different times or different eras.
And you could also look at it from cultural perspectives, too. That's a good one.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you. Did you have in mind a particular story, or was your context something like long ago versus today, or what was your context for that? What kind of a theme or a unit or a lesson plan would that be part of?
อาจารย์ใช้เรื่องอะไรหรือเปล่าคะเป็นเบสของคำถามนี้หรือว่าเป็นสภาพสังคมโดยทั่วไป I think she's based on Romeo and Juliet, right?
They're based on Romeo and
Ah.
Juliet.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
Very good.
Ping, the light went on. Thank you. Okay, very good. Do we have one more from Hua Hin?
Yes, we have one more from Ajahn Arisa.
Excellent.
From what?
Person's name.
My question is about Romeo and Juliet. The question is, is it wrong decision that both Romeo and Juliet suicide? This is the question for strategies number 33.
Giving reasons and evaluating evidence and alleged facts. Yes. Was it right for Romeo and Juliet to commit suicide?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And along those same lines, those are almost investigative kinds of things. If a police officer were to investigate the crime, or help me out here.
A religious leader.
A religious leader were to come in, what would their analysis be, and what kind of facts would they look at, and what kind of interpretation might they put on it? A lot of these kinds of activities lend themselves well to role play or simulation, or just sort of a changing of the scene and repositioning of things.
Rewriting and collages and other things to represent the play.
Mm-hmm. Good, good. Acting out, drama, storytelling theater.
Making a song.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Well, we're coming toward the end of our time. It's 6:15, and we'd like to leave.
Excuse me. Can I just say one more thing?
Oh, yeah. No. That's
I just wanted to make sure, or to point out, that these strategies go from number 1 to 35, but they are not in any particular hierarchical order. And when you are making your lesson plans, you can think about what are you doing in the affective domain and the cognitive domains. But number 1 is not any less than number 35. It's not hierarchical. And it's not possible really to have all of these in one lesson plan. But also when you look at your lesson plan in this way, you can see the kinds of activities, if you're doing the same kind of activities over and over, or if you are having variety and tapping into the other cognitive ways of thinking for the students.
So it's almost like a little checklist, but it's not like you have to follow things in a given order. You can kind of jump around. I also wouldn't put too much emphasis on the macro versus the micro. There's a lot of overlap there. It's not that one is necessarily exclusive of the other. So the purpose in providing the list today was more just to give you some ideas, something concrete to look at, and to be conscious of why you're choosing to use certain kinds of activities or strategies as you develop these critical thinking skills for yourselves and for your students as well.
Right, right.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Now we're drawing toward the end. Cindy provided me with a big, long list of recommendations, and I told her we're not going to have time to talk about all of them. What I can do is let her go over a couple of them in just sort of abbreviated form, and I'll add her list to the website in case you're interested in looking at those in more detail. So what kind of recommendations can you make to us to help make a class like this successful?
Well, the first item, it says create a safe and interactive environment. And we know as language teachers, one of the first things we do, we talked about this earlier, is we set up a safe place for the students to practice their language skills, a place where they feel comfortable. And we also need to do this if we want to have an interactive classroom where students feel free to express their ideas, exchange opinions, and sometimes to think out of the box.
And sometimes to make mistakes. It's okay sometimes to make mistakes with this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So some things we can do is to set down ground rules for discussion. Teach students to listen to each other, to take turns when speaking, to help each other learn, to respect each other's ideas, and to be active in the classroom. But basically to be respectful of each other and to interact in a professional or courteous manner. Yes. And to teach your students that there's a difference between laughing at somebody or laughing about an idea. Yes. Another important part would be to integrate critical thinking in the curriculum. There are a number of things that we can do. For example, take every opportunity possible to have brainstorming activities. Don't think of solutions for students. Have them come up with solutions to problems or other ideas. Have students compare and contrast everything that they can. One of the biggest things that we can do as teachers is give, when we ask a question, give a reasonable amount of time for students to respond. The research shows that we say any questions and then we move to the next topic too quickly. We don't give time for the students to reflect and ask questions. And if we give students like 3 minutes to think about a question before responding, we are teaching them, yes, we want you to think, and yes, we expect you to ask questions, and yes, I'm going to wait for you to respond. So increasing the waiting time is, research shows that it's very useful in getting students to think critically and to think about things in different ways. Again, I think Socratic questioning is really useful to get good discussions going, exchanging ideas, and create experiences so that every student can feel success at one time, and to acknowledge every student when they do participate or ask questions, even if you think the question is a little bit off base or a little bit wild or crazy, to give some kind of positive feedback to every student for their participation. And the last part, practice reflective teaching and engage in professional activities. I think it's important that we as teachers look for ways in which we can improve our instruction. One thing I can recommend is to videotape yourself. You can videotape and watch how you interact with the student, what kinds of questions you're asking, how frequently you're asking different questions of different students, and the interaction in the classroom between students and students and students and teachers. And you could have other people observe and give feedback in those areas also. I also recommend working closely with other teachers, collaborate, and come up with ideas together about how to deliver lessons and how to evaluate how much critical thinking you're incorporating. And also, I think another huge resource is the web, and there are many materials and lesson plans and ideas to help teachers develop very solid lessons that allow you to focus not only on the students' language skills, but what they are doing with the language.
Okay, good. Well, I think we have a few minutes. As I said before, we will we do have some websites already on the supporting website. We will be putting up this list of recommendations that Cindy just shared with us. So do be looking for that. And we might have a few minutes to take questions here. You'll notice that our last picture today is an animal that's, at least that we associate with Thailand. I think the elephant is a much beloved animal in Thailand and has been there for a long time. But I wonder if you notice anything unusual about this particular elephant. Let's see. He's got 2 tusks. Yeah, I can see one eye because his head is facing this way. I see one trunk, one nose.
It doesn't have a tail.
Oh, there's no tail. I think it's on the back. Maybe the tail's on the back. Okay. And I see one ear. I see one ear and kind of one body. But how many legs do you see?
5.
How many legs does this elephant have? Well, a normal elephant has 4. I can see 4, but then again, I think I can see more than that, too.
How many do they see?
How many do you see? Hold up your fingers for how many legs you see on the elephant. Oh, I'm seeing different fingers, different numbers around. Oh, way more legs than a normal elephant has. Okay, well, I hope I don't see any elephants like that in my lifetime exactly, but okay. Questions? Do we have time for questions from Hua Hin in Bangkok? What do you all think?
Yes. One question from Bangkok, Leslie.
Okay.
From Bangkok, may I ask you about S28? What does critical vocabulary mean?
Okay, so from
Thank you.
S28, what do they mean by critical vocabulary?
Maybe this would be, you would most know about this from teaching argumentation. Critical vocabulary is what are your assumptions? What evidence do you have? What criteria are you using to evaluate? So it's words, it's those kinds of words like assumptions, evaluate, criteria. What's the validity of your argument? These kinds of words become a natural part of the students' vocabulary so that when they're in discussions with each other, they can say, well, what is your evidence?
Well, and would it be things that you would give to students to support their natural expression? So it would be things like, in my opinion, or I believe, I think, or I respectfully disagree with your position. From my point of view, what I see is, and these kinds of things.
Right, so it's the tool so that they can communicate in an adult manner about issues in a discussion kind of way instead of an argumentative type of situation.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
And again, you can go to the critical thinking site that's listed on our web page, and you can get more specific examples of that kind of vocabulary.
Okay. Other questions? That was a good one.
Yeah.
หัวหินมีคำถามไหมคะ What about หัวหิน No, I don't think so.
I don't know. We didn't do our 3-minute pause. Okay. Well, as follow-up, we invite you to continue thinking about strategies for incorporating critical thinking in your classroom. We did give you a lot of readings for last month and this month. I think there's been a lot of food for thought with the 2 lectures. And we would welcome, at the following session, we would love to hear from more of you about some of your ideas and what you're doing in your classroom, what you're experimenting with. We'd like to thank the Distance Learning Foundation for making this video conference session possible today, and the U.S. Embassy. Also the support of our beautiful facilitators, some from the Distance Learning Foundation, some from Chulalongkorn University and other professional affiliations. And most of all, we'd like to thank the participants in the 2 studios and those of you who have been watching along with us from your homes and schools and other locations around Thailand and beyond.
Yeah.
Richard and Kun Naraporn and Kun Sorada, do you have any closing remarks you'd like to make?
Yeah. Why don't you put up your website again, and then I'll do a brief sum up in Thai for the audience.
Okay, sure. Okay, you want me to put the website up, the website address?
Yes, please.
Okay. You can go ahead and start summing up if you'd like to. It'll take me just a minute to get to it.
Okay. ท่านอาจารย์คะวันนี้ก็เป็น critical thinking skills ในช่วง2นะคะซึ่งอาจารย์ก็คงจะเห็นแล้วจากตัวอย่างของกิจกรรมที่ให้อาจารย์เนี่ยคิดคำถามนะคะว่าคำถามนี้ไม่ใช่แค่ว่าถามว่าอะไรที่ไหนอย่างไรนะอย่างปกติที่เราเจอทั่วๆไปนะคะใน textbook ใน course book ของเรานะคะคำถามที่อาจารย์ลองตั้งมาเมื่อกี้นี้นะคะเยอะแยะเลยเป็นคำถามที่เน้น critical thinking ทั้งนั้นเลยนะคะอย่างเช่นIf you were Snow White, what would you do? อะไรอย่างนั้นนะคะ to your stepmom หรือว่า would you have done the same if you were Juliet? นะคะพวกนั้นก็เป็นคำถามที่ถามในขั้นคิดวิเคราะห์ใช่ไหมคะให้เราลองดูซิว่าถ้าเราสวมบทบาทนั้นเราจะทำอย่างนั้นไหมจะทำอะไรที่แตกต่างกว่านั้นไหมนะคะก็หรือว่าตัวอย่างเรื่องแจ็คแอนด์บีนสต็อกอันนั้นใช่ไหมคะที่เรารู้มาคือแจ็คเป็นคนดีแต่นี่อาจารย์ซินเทียก็ให้อีกแง่มุมหนึ่งว่าเนี่ยจากการกระทำของเขาทั้งหมดเนี่ยนะคะเขาเป็นคนดีจริงหรือเปล่าอันนี้ซึ่งถ้าเราเป็นการกระตุ้นให้เด็กพัฒนาทักษะการคิดวิเคราะห์นะคะซึ่งอาจารย์ก็คงจะเอาไปเพิ่มเติมเสริมในและซึ่งแปลของอาจารย์ได้ครั้งละสักคำถาม2 คำถามก็พอแล้วนะคะคิดว่าคงจะมีประโยชน์มากแล้วก็ข้อคำแนะนำของอาจารย์ซินเชียก็บอกว่าเป็นการที่ช่วยให้เด็กเนี่ยได้มีความช่วยเหลือกันนะคะได้ฝึกการระดมสมองนะคะแล้วก็การใช้ความคิดนะคะให้เวลาแล้วก็อยากให้เวลาเด็กเนี่ยคิดมากขึ้นนะเราให้เขาคิดเนี่ยนะคะก็ให้เวลาเขา reflect ให้คิดให้มากขึ้นแล้วก็ให้เขารู้จักการเปรียบเทียบคิดวิเคราะห์ทุกครั้งที่มีโอกาสนะคะแล้วก็อาจารย์ซินเทียก็แนะนำว่าเราอาจจะวิดีโอเทปคลาสของเราไว้เวลาเราถามคำถามหรืออะไรแล้วก็มาดูฟีดแบ็กว่าเราตั้งคำถามอย่างนั้นถูกดีหรือยังนะคะช่วยส่งเสริม critical thinking หรือเปล่านะคะอันนี้ก็เป็นแค่ส่วนเล็กน้อยนะคะก็คงจบสำหรับวันนี้ Leslie and Cynthia thank you very much for your fruitful presentation and all the active questions active activities going on during this session thank you very much everybody
Oh, thank you. It was our pleasure. It was quite a fun session. We're constantly amazed and impressed with the quality of contributions. We learn a lot from you during these sessions as well. I do have the website up and the current website address. Just to let you know, we are expecting to bring a new design and kind of look to it, probably this coming week, but we'll make sure that the address is still working and everything's functioning and still intact. So there it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. Bye.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you again next month.
See you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Leslie. See you next time.
Oh, thank you. It was absolutely wonderful working with you again today.